All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. You are live and direct with your Akazaki Yahoo, giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahuwah Bahashem, Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say shalom, wa baruchim. That is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day that the Most High brings us back together, and we are once again 12 tribes. One family, one nation, under the Most High Power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Indeed, yes, indeed. I'm joined this evening by my most esteemed Akinanaya. Shalom, Aki.
Hey, shalom, shalom, Aki. Shalom, Yasharal. Call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashem, HaMashiach, Wamalak, Yahweh Shah, Barakatah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All praises to Yahweh in the name of his beloved son, Yahweh Shah, HaMashiach, the Messiah, and King. Bless you. Hallelujah. Yes, indeed. So we are back again on another Yom Shishi evening, festive weekend this weekend. All praises to the Abba. Life is here. We breathing. We healthy. We above ground. We have an opportunity to lift up the name of the Most High. Most High willing, we'll see the Sabbath tomorrow, and it'll be a fabulous Yom. I heard the sun was going to be out. We probably might have to get some sun too.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yes, indeed. I heard it was going to be out, so I hope that's the case, because it was dreary looking today. I didn't like that. I don't like when it's like that. But anyway, we're back for the video review, Yashar, and we're going to get right to it. We got a triple header for you today, so all praises to the Abba. We're not cutting no corners. We're getting it in. We're getting it straight in. This first video comes to us from the good brothers at Black Culture Unlocked. It's the untold lives of how HaMashiach, Yahweh Shah, Yahushua, however you choose to pronounce his name, don't use that JC though, was gradually changed into a white man. So we're going to see their view on that, and hope it's edifying for everybody. I'm sure it will be, but here we go.
Jesus was a white man too, but you know, it's like he was a historical figure. I mean, that's a verifiable fact.
Verifiable.
What if I told you that the image of Jesus Christ, a personality that is highly worshipped by billions of people around the world, has been intentionally metamorphosed over the past 2,000 years? That the face so many associate with love, sacrifice, and divinity is, in fact, a symbol of deliberately strategized myth. This alteration wasn't just a coincidental accident, but was carefully and politically executed with the intent of making Jesus fit the agendas of societies, empires, and a power dynamic. Here's the truth most people don't know. Jesus was a Jewish man from the Middle East, likely with dark skin, curly hair, and certain Middle Eastern characteristics. But today, he has been misquoted with a false definition. Most people imagine him with fair skin, blue eyes, and long, light brown hair. These characteristics are more commonly prevalent in Renaissance Europe than in ancient Palestine. Why does this even matter? Because images aren't just art, but they're messages. They shape beliefs and personalities, and influence how we see the world, and, in this case, instigate social and racial inequality. To clearly understand how this transformation happened, we need to dive deep and uncover layers of history, art, and political power that have influenced the Western world's image of divinity itself. In this video, we'll explore the hidden story of how Jesus, the most powerful personality in history, was transformed into a white European personality over the centuries. This story will take us through a journey from the Roman Empire to medieval Europe, through the halls of colonial power, and into the rise of modern media. This is a story of how politics, art, and religion collided together to alter the image of Jesus and change the minds, culture, and history. Let's go back in time and expose 2,000 years of lies.
Right.
To clearly understand how the personality of Jesus was altered, we need to first off understand his roots. Jesus was a Jewish man who was born in Bethlehem, a small town in first-century Palestine, part of the Roman Empire. This region was, and still is, a sprightly blend of Middle Eastern cultures, which is far from the European tradition which he is often associated with today. His ethnic background connects him to a specific region, tradition, and people who have unambiguous physical characteristics that are shaped by centuries of Middle Eastern ancestry. But here's the thing, there's nowhere in the Bible that had a detailed description of what Jesus looked like. Instead, it had a primary focus on his teachings and actions, which was the omission of his physical appearance. What a mystery. Several artists, empires, and cultures have abused the omission of a detailed description of his physical appearance in the gospel, feeding the public with their definition and idea of what his image and personality are. However, early Christians had a different perception. In the early beginning of Christianity, followers used elements like the fish, the anchor, or the Good Shepherd symbol to represent their faith and belief.
What?
These symbols didn't try to define what Jesus looked like. They were about conveying his message in simple, relatable ways. In these early centuries,
All right. Hold up. Hold up. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. What in the world is he talking about?
Well,
My gracious, boy, that is off the wall. Go ahead. You got on.
well, I mean, to me, oh, Salaki, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'm just bugging out over here.
Well, he opened the door to bring forth some truth about our Messiah and King when he said, talked about him culturally being Hebrew or Hebrew.
Yeah.
This is the perfect opportunity to tell the people that him being a Hebrew means that his name would have never been Jesus.
Right. Exactly.
There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. Then he goes on to say that there's no description of the Messiah, but that's not accurate either. We can go to Revelation chapter 1, beginning at verse 14.
Yeah.
We read that his hairs were white as wool, or light wool, as white as snow. His eyes were as flame as fire, and his feet like unto fine brass. So this gives us a small description of what our King and kinsman Redeemer looked like.
And on the top of that, you can go into the Old Testament, and you can see that he would have no form that he would be desired. That you would look at him and think of that, So that's a missed opportunity right there. That's why I'm like, what in the world? And then he talked about what really kind of pushed me over the rail was when he talked about the fish and all these other things. These are deities that people worship. That's why those symbols were prevalent and are associated with this false Messiah, because these are deities that they worship. Not the Yahudim, not the so-called Jews or the actual Jews or the actual, the Israelite Yahudim is that's the proper term for it, or Yehudim. They wouldn't have dealt with that. So that's got me scratching my head. I used to think this brother was in the truth, or these were some brothers in the truth, but I'm scratching my head now. I'm like, who is this putting this thing together? Yeah, but all right, we'll get back to it, and you can't get too outrageous, but yeah, okay. That's right.
Centuries, Jesus's image was abstract, often ambiguous, focusing on the spiritual rather than the physical. The first actual depictions of Jesus that we know of came from around the 3rd century, long after his death. And here's where it gets fascinating. Some of these early depictions don't show him as we'd recognize him today. In the Roman catacombs, for example, he's often shown as a clean-shaven, youthful figure with short hair, resembling a Roman citizen rather than a Middle Eastern rabbi. These images were meant to make Jesus relatable to early Christians living in a Roman world, so they drew from the cultural aesthetics they knew. In this historical context, Jesus wasn't a European figure. He was a Middle Eastern man whose image was only beginning to take shape, influenced by the cultures and societies of the time. But over the next centuries, as Christianity spread and the influence of the Roman Empire grew, Jesus' image would start to change, slowly but unmistakably, toward a face that looked less Middle Eastern and more European. This blank slate of Jesus' appearance is where our story of transformation truly begins. To understand the transformation of Jesus' image, we need to start with his roots. Jesus was a Jewish man born in Bethlehem, a small town in first-century Palestine, part of the Roman Empire. This region was, and still is, a vibrant blend of Middle Eastern cultures, far from the European landscapes often associated with him today. His ethnicity and background link him to a specific region, culture, and people who had distinct physical features shaped by centuries of Middle Eastern ancestry. But here's the thing. Nowhere in the Bible or other early texts do we find a detailed description of what Jesus looked like. Instead, the Gospels focus on his teachings and actions, leaving his physical appearance a mystery. This lack of description has created a blank canvas, a space where countless artists, cultures, and empires have filled in the blanks, often projecting their ideals onto his image. Early Christians, however, did have a different approach. When Christianity was just beginning to take root, followers used symbols like the fish, the anchor, or the Good Shepherd to represent their faith. These images didn't try to define what Jesus looked like, but conveyed his message in simple and relatable ways. In these early centuries, Jesus' image was abstract, often ambiguous, focusing on the spiritual aspect more than the physical. The first actual illustration of Jesus we got familiar with came from around the 3rd century, so many centuries after his death. And here's where it gets interesting. Some of these early depictions don't portray him as we'd recognize him today. In the Roman catacombs, for example, he was often portrayed as a clean-shaven, youthful figure with short hair that resembles that of a Roman citizen rather than a Middle Eastern rabbi. These images were meant to make Jesus relatable to early Christians living in a Roman world, so they drew from the cultural aesthetics they were familiar with. In this historical context, Jesus wasn't a European personality. He was a Middle Eastern man whose image was only beginning to take shape and was influenced by the cultures and societies of the time. But over the next centuries, Christianity began to spread as the influence of the Roman Empire grew, and Jesus' image started to drift slowly toward a face that looked less Middle Eastern and more European. This blank slate of Jesus' appearance is where our story of transformation truly begins. As Christianity gained more followers, it also began to attract the attention of the most powerful empire in the world, Rome. During the 4th century, the Roman Empire was very influential in that it had transformed entire continents and cultures, and it was about to alter Jesus' image as well. In the year 313 AD, Emperor Constantine made an outrageous decision when he converted to Christianity and declared it a legal religion. This became a turning point. For the first time, Christianity moved from being a hidden, persecuted faith to a religion aligned with supreme power. But as Christianity gained its stance, something unthinkable also happened. The image of Jesus began to shift towards the Roman alignment. This wasn't just about faith, but about politics, identity, and cultural assimilation. Early Roman illustration began to portray Jesus in a way that resonated with Roman citizens. Artists portrayed him as clean-shaven, youthful, with short hair, and oftentimes even in Roman attire, to resemble figures familiar to Roman culture. One of the most iconic early images of Jesus from this period is the Good Shepherd, where he's shown as a young, beardless man in a Roman tunic, carrying a lamb on his shoulders. To Roman converts, These images would have felt recognizable, relatable, and primarily authoritative. Jesus wasn't portrayed as a Middle Eastern Jewish man. Instead, he was portrayed as one of their own. This transformation wasn't based on individual discretion or judgment, it was strategic. Rome was a heated ground of diverse peoples, and as the empire sought unity under Christianity, it needed an image of Jesus that could appeal to all. They adopted Greco-Roman artistic style and made Jesus' image more universal, something that could resonate from the markets of Rome to the borders of the empire. Christianity became the official state religion of Rome towards the end of the 4th century. The empire was large, reaching from modern-day Europe to parts of the Middle East and North Africa. And as this new state religion went viral, so did the Roman-inspired image of Jesus. Whether intentional or not, this Romanized illustration of Jesus slowly transformed his identity. He was no longer just a Middle Eastern religious leader, but a symbol of Roman strength aligned with superior rule and dominance. Seeing through this Roman lens, Jesus' image became a tool, a passage to make the faith more relatable to the empire, a new face that would lead the way in birthing a global religion. But in embracing Jesus to fit the Roman mold, seeds of transformation that would continue to evolve over the centuries were planted, which kept pushing him further away from his roots. As the Roman Empire collapsed and Europe entered the medieval period, Christianity became the most practiced religious force across the continent. But with this newfound dominance came a new question. How should Jesus be portrayed in a Europe that was now defining itself through Christianity? The answer was a drastic drift, as Jesus' image continued to transform to reflect a more European ideal. This wasn't just a piece of art. It was about creating a Jesus who was defined by European identity, politics, and values. In the Middle Ages, Jesus' image was portrayed to have distinctive European characteristics, which were inspired by medieval art and the political forces of the time. As of then, the abstract, mysterious Jesus of early Christianity was replaced with a personality that looked far more familiar to European believers. He was often portrayed with light skin, light or auburn hair, and some delicate features, an illustration that had little resemblance to a Middle Eastern man. These depicted images were seen in cathedrals, churches, and manuscripts, instigating this new image as the face of God all around Europe. But why did this happen? The answer lies partially in the power the Church had, and partly in the cultural upheavals of the dispensation. As of the time of the Crusades in the 11th century, Christianity wasn't just a religion, but a political force. Europeans saw themselves as defenders of Christendom who were marching off to reclaim the Holy Land and spread their faith and beliefs. In this context, it made sense to portray Jesus as a distinctly European figure. A European-inspired Jesus symbolized a divine authority behind their conquests and was a way to claim religious legitimacy over lands and peoples who didn't share their culture. Prominent artistic legends of the medieval period played a pivotal role in adapting this European image of Jesus. Artists like Cimabue and Giotto began to portray Jesus with a sense of...
All right. That's about all I can take of this. So, yeah. I don't know where they got this stuff from. The whitewashing of not only the image of the Messiah, but the image of the Israelites altogether was about the people that they had in slavery. So that to disconnect those people, who is us, from the reality of who we were. That's all that was about. You deal with you keep saying that Messiah was a Jewish man. Messiah was a Hebrew Israelite. That's who Messiah is, not was, is to this day. When he returns, he's coming back a Hebrew Israelite, the same as the rest of us. Some of us know we Hebrew Israelites. Some of us don't know we Hebrew Israelites, but we still Hebrew Israelites because we come from the line. We come from Jacob. Whether we know it, understand it, accept it, or deal with it, it is what it is. You can't make it something that is not. And that's what this whole thing was truly about. So yeah, that's all I can take on that, because it was frustrating me to even God. So yeah, you got anything else on that, Art? Because
just real quick. He spoke so much that was, I would say, a continuation of the lie that we were fed, growing up.
Right.
Even the word Middle East is a socially constructed word.
Exactly.
For anybody who might be able to hear this at some point, if you were to Google Middle East, you would see that it wasn't even a thing until after the end of World War I. And this area, it consisted of, from the western border being Egypt to the eastern border being Iran. Now, what is eyebrow raising, or makes me look at this, this area has been part of the cradle of civilization, where civilization began. And you and I covered this back in Bereshit 2 years ago, when we broke down those nations and where they went. And if our readers or our listeners have a chance to go back and review that, I believe it's Genesis chapter 10. But we broke down where each one of these sons went to what area, and you would see that this land consisted of melanated people.
Exactly.
So what they're portraying right here is not the complete truth.
No, not at all, not at all. And I don't know what the the idea was. Usually these videos have been very solid, and that's why we review them. That's why we listen to them, and we talk about it. This was a failure. I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why it failed. I don't know why it was done in the manner that it was, but yeah. But yeah, we it's a lot more to be brought out on that, but we're not gonna. We'll have to put together something along that lines. One thing else I wanted to mention, he kept calling it a part of Palestine, an area of Palestine. It was Israel is the name of the place. And if you don't know where Israel is, then we put it up on the map several times. It's right above, right where Africa is. It's right there. In fact, the children of Israel journeyed from Egypt, which is Africa, what's known today as Africa. What the ancient name of it was referred to as the land of Ham. Also, Kebulon, right?
Kebulon.
Yeah. So they walked from one place to the next. They would often travel to Mizraim or Egypt for commerce, for trade, and things of that nature. That was a common trip. We live in Indiana. We commonly go to Louisville, to Kentucky, because Louisville is a bigger city. It got a lot more going on. That's about as easy of a trip. It may have been a little bit more, but to give you an idea of how easy that trip was, that was a very common trip for them to take that. That's why when Jacob had, when our father Jacob, Yaakov, had Uncle, what's Uncle name?
The family.
No, before the family. When he was training Joseph, he was teaching him these languages. That's why he was able to go over there and operate, because he wasn't just there not knowing nothing. He was there. His father taught him. He was able to speak not only the language in Canaan, which would have been Hebrew. He was able to speak the language in Mizraim, where he got sent to prison. So, I mean, that's how common it was to be back and forth. And when we just read that not too long ago, he told them to go and buy bread, go and buy food there. It was no big thing. It was like crossing the bridge, literally. We here, go over there, and that's what it is. But anyhow, we're gonna move on from that, and we'll get into a little more kind of home about what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Our good brothers over at Black Journal, shout out to those brothers. I don't think they let us down before yet. I don't know. I haven't been disappointed by a video review from them. I'm kind of disappointed by that one. That was, and then what was that whole repeat thing? That he repeated itself like 3 times.
Right. I noticed that it was almost like it was a loop.
Yeah.
So they might have rushed through that video.
Kind of threw that together, some stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna let them off the hook, and we'll close that on out, get that out of here. But shout out to the brothers at Black Journals. This is the shocking sundown towns that still exist today in America, and they advise us to stay safe. That's definitely going to be our sentiment as well. Stay safe when you're dealing with these places and these people. So let's get to it.
Did you know there are still places in the U.S. that are very dangerous for Black people to be in after dark? Sundown towns refer to communities in the United States that historically practiced racial segregation by systematically excluding non-white individuals, especially African Americans, from staying within the town after dark. These towns enforced both written and unwritten rules to prevent non-white people from residing or remaining inside town limits after sunset. Such towns were prevalent in the 1800s and early 1900s, and they weren't only limited to the South. They spread across the entire country. In these towns, it was common to see signs that warned, "Don't let the sun go down on you here." These signs would threaten non-white people to leave before nightfall. If they didn't, they faced threats of violence, arrest, and even the possibility of being lynched.
I feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, very uncomfortable.
While you'd expect this type of racism to be a thing of the past, the reality is sundown towns still exist today. In fact, there's been a disturbing pattern across the United States in recent years. Young Black men are being lured to isolated rural communities, only to vanish or be found dead. But despite growing evidence, the existence of modern-day sundown towns remains a controversial topic, as many still want to dismiss it as a thing of the past. However, the testimonies of numerous Black Americans reveal otherwise. In this video, we'll be talking about several places in the U.S. that are still considered sundown towns today, along with recent cases involving Black individuals in these areas. So give this video a like to show your support, subscribe for similarly insightful content, and let's begin this haunting journey. Number 1, Vidor, Texas.
Like pretty much everybody I know in Texas that's Black tells me, do not go to Vidor, Texas. I'm like, okay. Yet here I was in Vidor, Texas.
Vidor is one of the most notorious modern-day examples of a sundown town. Historically a hub for the Ku Klux Klan, the town maintained its all-white status for decades. Despite reports of efforts for change, Vidor is a town that still remains unsafe for Black people today. The town has a reputation for racial hostility, and though no laws are on the books banning Black residents, unwritten rules and social pressures linger. Recently, a trucker found himself in a terrifying situation when he delivered a load to Vidor. Watch as he shares this horrible encounter.
So I get to the place, I'm not giving names of companies or anything like that, but while I'm driving to the place, I see trailer parks, I see a bunch of Confederate flags. I saw a doll of a Black man. It was just a doll wrapped in a Confederate flag hanging from a tree by its neck. That's the type of stuff I saw in Vidor, Texas, which led me to believe that the reputation was fairly earned. I get there, the security guard says, hey, we got a code red. The guy gets on the phone, is like, hey, I can't, I don't want to be responsible for this guy's safety. Let me go ahead and find somebody because we stopped taking loads at 4 o'clock. But I'll get somebody over here from the other side of the plant. Tell them to hang on. So I hang on. I'm doing what I got to do. Finally, somebody comes by about 15 minutes later. The guy said, let me hurry up and get you unloaded. He quickly gets me unloaded. And they said, dude, you might want to get up out of here as soon as possible. We're at sundown. You want to leave here now. Don't stop until you at least get to Beaumont. I was like, okay. He was like, no, seriously. I said, well, what about the police? Why aren't the police there? Police turned a blind eye. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do what you said. He said, yeah, man, I don't want to see you get in any trouble.
A Confederate flag, a doll of a black man hanging from a tree, and a security guard who cannot guarantee a black man's safety. These are things that would be more expected during the Jim Crow era. Yet it was already 2022 when this trucker shared such an experience. You may be wondering why its citizens would still hold on to such outdated behaviors. The thing is, it's not because of lack of education, but simply because many of its citizens refuse to change. In 1993, Vidor faced significant backlash when a court ordered its public housing to be desegregated. The Ku Klux Klan held a march in protest of this decision, while local church leaders organized a counter-demonstration. Despite the community's opposition, 4 black families moved into the housing complex. However, these families faced intense racial harassment and threats, including a bomb threat. As a result, all 9 black residents eventually moved out. One resident, Bill Simpson, described the threats he endured, saying,
I've had people who drive by and tell me they're going home to get a rope and come back and hang me.
Given that it's now 2024, it's quite unsettling to think that 1993 was only 31 years ago. As of 2024, Vidor has a population of almost 10,000 citizens, 94.71% of which are white.
Because we all knew about Vidor. We knew Vidor wasn't the place to be. We knew Vidor was a place that white supremacy is king, and it was definitely a sundown town. We all knew that. We knew that.
It's probably going to take much more time before the town's rid of its terrible history and attitudes. Fortunately, there's been some progress, albeit quite little compared to the accumulated damage. During the George Floyd protests in 2020, a diverse crowd of around 150 to 200 people attended a Black Lives Matter rally in the town. Nevertheless, this town can still be considered dangerous for black people to travel in, especially after dark. Number 2, Kerman, California.
Christmas Day, I said, what if this was just a dream? And I walked downstairs and he's sitting on the couch.
But it wasn't a dream. That nightmare is still a reality for a mother months into the search for her missing son out of Fresno County. Corey Daniely was last seen on his birthday, August 7th, leaving a home in Kerman, and since then, radio silence.
Founded in the early 1900s, Kerman was initially a farming community that attracted diverse populations, including migrants and laborers. However, during the mid-20th century, Kerman developed a reputation as a sundown town, as white residents aimed to maintain racial homogeneity. Through the years, the town has been influenced by segregationists and racial violence. Even today, with only a 0.43% black population, many of its townspeople still hold racist attitudes. A recent case that proves this is the disappearance of Corey Daniely, a 33-year-old musician from California who went missing on August 7, 2023, after an argument with a friend in Kerman.
On Monday, the 7th of August, earlier this year, a 33-year-old musician from California named Corey Daniely would suddenly disappear after getting into a fight with one of his friends before supposedly storming off into the night, never to be seen again.
That night, he went away and has not been seen since. The Fresno Police Department and Corey's family suspect that he may have died due to the suspicious circumstances surrounding his disappearance. The key to the investigation is Zach Stiles, the last person known to have seen Corey. Zach is Corey's friend who invited him out to Kerman. He mysteriously relocated to Hawaii shortly after the incident. Unfortunately, despite the mounting evidence suggesting foul play, including the lack of clear answers from the police, no conclusive details have come up regarding Corey's fate. This strange incident has led people to wonder if the case had been covered up. Nevertheless, Kerman obviously still appears to be unsafe for Black people to stay in. Number 3, Siskiyou County, California.
Now, as you're on your way there, you're going to pass through poor neighborhoods that have nothing but rebel flags flying high. And you have a lot of one-way roads that have no street lights or cameras. At one point, I thought to myself, damn, I could easily get murdered and no one would ever know. But as we were leaving, we took the scenic route back home. I remember traveling along Route 119, stopping at a gas station. The cashier was like, "You must not be from around here, huh?" I was like, "Nah, I'm just passing through getting gas." She was like, "Yeah, you best not be around here after a certain time. This is a sundown town."
In 1970, only 2.1% of Siskiyou County's population was Black, while 1980 figures indicate a Black population of only 1.5%. By 2020, the county only has a 1.07% Black population. People of color tend to avoid this place because the county has long had a reputation for being racially biased, with log cabin hotels displaying signs that read, "We cater to whites only." Even today, the area's anti-Blackness can be seen through recent incidents.
I don't blame nobody. I just want my child to be found.
On May 5th, 2020, 28-year-old Devontae Morgan and his girlfriend traveled to Mount Shasta for a family birthday party. After a heated argument with his girlfriend, he left their motel and was never seen again. He was reported missing 2 days later, but police noted his girlfriend's unusual lack of emotion and that Devontae's broken phone made tracking him impossible. After nearly a week, surveillance footage showed him entering a gas station alone, but extensive searches yielded no further clues. Devontae's family grew increasingly frustrated, feeling that something was off in the community. The family reported instances of locals tearing down their missing person posters and showing little interest in helping them. 2 months later, a witness told Devontae's brother Anthony that he had seen Devontae get into a white truck, sparking rumors he'd been taken to the Shasta River. However, police found no evidence to support these claims and the case went cold. Devontae remains missing today. His family left searching for answers in a suspiciously indifferent community. Number 4, Cullman, Alabama.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This is 2023.
It's 2023.
And there's sundown towns.
But you were mentioning there's one actually here in Alabama. We're in Alabama.
It's called Cullman, Alabama.
Cullman, Alabama.
Cullman.
Okay.
Alabama.
And then
When Cullman was founded in 1873, it was advertised as a place with no Blacks and no Indians. The place was historically a sundown area. And although official policies have long been abolished, many Black travelers and residents report that certain areas of Cullman still feel unsafe, especially after sunset. The county remains predominantly white, and the memory of its exclusionary past lingers. In 2023, a Black man recounted his unsettling experience in Cullman. He was a real estate agent and was one day assigned to a house in Cullman. Now watch as this man shares his personal experience regarding the town's ongoing racism.
I've heard of Cullman, but I didn't want to jump the gun. I wanted to see what they knew. I wanted to just pay attention. So we're riding, and as we come into town, I see a store, and it had a guy's face painted on the side of it. He had a beard. And so, I mean, to me, he looked like a person of color. I said, oh, this is a forward-thinking town. Look at that. They have, I'm thinking, okay, they done put somebody up. The driver looks at the passenger because the two guys I was riding with were in the front, I'm in the back. They look at each other and he said, no, it's actually very much the opposite. He tells me out of his mouth, this is probably the most racist town in Alabama. It is a sundown town. I said, now you tell me after y'all bring me here. They're like, oh, you'll be fine, man, you'll be fine. Two country boys, so they're gonna be fine.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're good. I said, do I need to stay in the car when we get here? Oh, no, man. I said, okay. We pull up. We hop out. I'm hopping out the car. Everybody's getting out, closing the doors. I'm walking around. White lady comes out of the house, a little older. She looks at everybody. She sees me and yells out, oh, y'all brought a Black fella. Wow.
Throughout the visit, he tried to stay out of the way, allowing his colleagues to lead the interaction. However, the woman, while attempting to interact with him, acted oddly.
And then one time she acted like she was gonna fall, and I held my arm out in the house to help her, like, oh, don't fall. She said, watch out, I'm dangerous. I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, that's not gonna make me feel good.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I didn't even know where'd that come from.
Right.
Like, for the act of benevolence.
I would love if you left a review for Coleman, Alabama.
I would love to leave a review
Because
I want to warn people who have never heard of it.
Yeah.
Because there's businesses there. There's warehouses. So if you're a truck driver, you might be like, oh, Coleman, okay. But you need to know, don't spend the night there.
Dang.
While there have been demographic changes and some Black residents have settled in the area, many white residents maintain a mindset that rejects racial integration. These residents still believe that Black people do not belong in their community. Unfortunately, such beliefs have been passed down to the younger generations as well. In 2021, a 10-second video surfaced, showing a student in the background shouting a racial slur followed by the phrase, "white power." Jocelyn Logan, a mother of a Black student named LJ, has been vocal about the impact this incident has had on her family. Logan expressed her heartbreak upon discussing the video with her son, who reacted by urging her not to report it, as he believed that any action taken would be ineffective. Coleman City school leaders condemned the video as highly offensive and inappropriate, but the district's attorney cited a Supreme Court ruling stating that because the video was recorded off campus and did not disrupt the school day, disciplinary action against the student was not possible. This decision left many parents feeling frustrated and fearful as they worry about the culture that such tolerance of offensive language fosters within the school environment. With recent incidents like these, it's safe to say that Coleman is a place that remains unsafe for Black people. Number 5, Anna, Illinois. ANA, sometimes referenced as an acronym for Ain't No Negroes Allowed, has a deeply embedded history of racism. The town's population remains overwhelmingly white, with only a small percentage of minority residents. As such, many people of color avoid the town, fearing discrimination or violence. Though there are no formal sundown laws today, the town's past still influences its racial atmosphere. Recent events, as reported by investigative journalism organization ProPublica, show that while some progress has been made, incidents of racial tension still arise. In March 2013, a 16-year-old Black teenager was violently attacked. 4 white men beat the teen in a parking lot, with one allegedly attempting to sodomize him with either a tire iron or an axe handle. While one of the attackers admitted the attack was racially motivated, the police did not charge them with a hate crime. This case is just one example of how, even when racial motivations are clear, justice does not always prevail in Anna. In 2017, following the Charlottesville white supremacist rally, a local resident named Tabitha Tripp called on Union County commissioners to address hate incidents in the area. She proposed a resolution to condemn such hate groups, a resolution similar to the one passed in the Illinois House. However, the proposal was dismissed, with officials claiming that discussing the issue would only create more of a problem. Additionally, even white residents like Gavin Tripp continue to experience casual racism. In 2016, while dating a biracial girl, Gavin was called a Negro lover by a passerby. Despite some awareness among residents and activists, change in Anna seems slow. A few towns in the Midwest have officially confronted their histories of racial exclusion. Anna, however, remains largely silent on its past. Local officials and residents alike often argue that revisiting this history will only rip the wound open rather than heal it. The lingering effects of Anna's sundown town history are not only felt through occasional violent incidents, but also in the town's everyday life. Black residents, workers, and even visitors still feel the weight of its racial history. And until there's a more concerted effort to address and acknowledge it, Anna's reputation will likely continue to reflect its past. While some residents prefer to move on, ignoring the problem has only allowed it to persist. Number 6, Vienna, Illinois.
I feel very uncomfortable. Yeah, very uncomfortable.
Similar to Anna, Illinois, Vienna has long been associated with racial exclusion. In 1957, about 67 years ago, a group of white residents burned down homes belonging to the town's small Black population after a Black man was accused of attacking a white woman. This incident contributed to Vienna's reputation as a sundown town, While the town no longer has formal sundown laws today, Black people still avoid staying in Vienna for their safety. Stories of racial intimidation and hostility have been passed down through generations and continue to accumulate today, despite efforts for change. In 2020, around 50 people gathered in Vienna to call for racial justice. The protest was sparked by a disturbing incident in which students at the local high school formed a Snapchat group named We Hate Black People. Many of the protesters were from outside the town. However, they faced significant opposition from local counter-protesters, some of whom were even waving Confederate flags. Although there are some Black individuals currently residing in Vienna, the legacy of exclusion still affects the community. One resident, Nicholas Lewis, expressed feelings of fear and discomfort since moving to Vienna 2 years ago.
I feel scared or like just even strange going around to the store because I know all eyes on me. I started coming outside more and more and, seeing what it really was. And I'm like, damn, where's the Black people at?
Many white residents, however, believe racism is not an issue in their town. These residents deny its existence as they cite personal experiences with Black friends and caregivers, their so-called evidence that racial tensions do not affect their community.
We got along fine on racism. I've had Black friends. I've had Black babysitters. I've had Black people who took care of me through my childhood. Black people nurtured me, mentored me. We were very best of damn friends.
Meanwhile, James Davis, a truck driver from a nearby area, argues otherwise.
James Davis is a truck driver from a nearby town. He grew up knowing which towns to avoid stopping in while driving through.
Some people, they might say it and the whole time they're thinking in the back of their mind, yeah, we're still Sundown town. We don't like people of color here. So you never know.
Despite gatherings and calls for change, skepticism remains about whether Vienna can truly become a more welcoming place for Black residents. Number 7, Martinsville, Indiana. Martinsville, Indiana has long been labeled a sundown town and can still be considered one today. The town became infamous in 1968 when a young Black woman named Carol Jenkins was brutally murdered by a member of the Ku Klux Klan while selling encyclopedias door to door. Jenkins's murder solidified Martinsville's reputation as a sundown town. Despite her killer being arrested 34 years later, the town's history of racial tension continues. According to the Indiana Daily Student, Confederate flags still fly all over the town. That proves to be a problem for Black Indiana University students, knowing that the Confederacy fought to preserve the institution of slavery. Unfortunately, since Martinsville is located along the main road that leads to the campus, many Black students have no choice but to pass through the town on their way to and from school. In 2019, Tanisha Ford wrote about the impact that racial violence in Martinsville had on Black individuals. In her article, she shared how her own Uncle Howard was brutally beaten in Martinsville while stopping for food on his way to visit her mother at Indiana University. The reality is that the Indiana University campus has long been marked by racism. The Ku Klux Klan openly marched in the streets, and Black students were often harassed by university police for gathering in groups that were seen as too large. Black students also faced discrimination in the classroom, where white professors often assumed they were less capable and graded them unfairly. These experiences were documented in the IU yearbook Arbutus and in magazines like Essence during the 1960s and 70s. Though it has been a long time since then, instances of racial hostility have resurfaced in Martinsville in recent years. As recently as 2011, Martinsville was in the spotlight for KKK-related activity. A local man distributed copies of The Crusader, a KKK publication, to downtown businesses. When charged with littering, the case was dismissed due to the material being classified as a newspaper. Martinsville's efforts to deviate from its racist image are slow. Many of its residents assert that the town's history doesn't reflect the views of the current population. However, recent incidents and lingering stereotypes continue to plague Martinsville, making it a difficult place for people of color to feel truly welcome. There are many more incidences like these, and places that simply wish to stick with corrupted morals. A historical database of sundown towns can be accessed on the web by anyone who needs it. Interact with the map, and you will see long lists of towns per state, historically known to have been sundown towns. This is very important because awareness can help ensure caution. Just because a town says they've changed doesn't mean that all of its residents agree. So as we move forward, may we always stay informed and vigilant. Understanding this history helps us recognize trouble when we see it. This will help us eventually create a safer, more inclusive community for everyone. If you found this information valuable, please like, share.
All right. Shout out again to Black Journals. Great work on that video. Now, as it pertains to the content of the video, man, it's crazy because I don't see the point in trying to go someplace that don't want me there. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you go to a place and just because they say, okay, you can move here now, and now you're going to just go up in there, and these people are crazy. These people are not normal people. Why would you want to be there and live there? You know they got, yesterday they was racist and today they supposed to be all right? Come on, that's not sensible. We got to start thinking better than this, my people. That's and I hate to blame the victim, but you gotta know that these people are not for you. These people are not for us. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be more sensible than that. Nobody is going to just give you an easy way just because you show up. You're gonna have to earn what you get. And that's just what it is. It's just the reality. You want to earn it. And you earn it in a racist place? Perhaps, but why would you want to? Why would you want to spend your time, your effort, your energy, your money in a place that don't want you? But this is the training of our people. See, this is the mindset of the falsehood of integration. For some reason, we think we're supposed to be everywhere. We're supposed to be in our own land. That's what we're supposed to be. And we're not in our own land, but we're not on vacation. This ain't a vacation. This ain't a weekend getaway. This is captivity. And I want our people to do so much better. Yeah, that was something else. Indiana, there was one or two mentions of this state.
Yeah. You know, when we travel up to Indianapolis, Naptown, you know, we travel near that Martinsville area, going up towards Bloomington, near Bloomington. So you know, this is right up the street, right up the street. You know, 2 exits up from us is where the Ku Klux Klan, the local chapter here in Southern Indiana, that's where they meet at. 2 exits up from us in Henryville, Indiana. You know, when we were speaking about the locations there in Illinois, you know, I grew up not too far from this, from that Anna and Vienna. Those are two small towns right beside each other. I would say they're probably about an hour away from where I grew up at. But you know, they're surrounded by all of these towns that are predominantly Negro, like Cairo, Illinois, where that one truck driver was from.
Yeah,
that's a predominantly black town. Charleston, Missouri, which is right there on the border, is a predominantly black town. You know, they're surrounded, and it's really no money there at all. They've combined the school system there between those little small towns. It's like maybe 3 counties. That's how small they are, and the towns don't even have any money to even put together like an independent school in each town. So they all send. My mother, after she retired, that's where she was going up up at that school up there that they had for them. But something else that kind of triggered, I wouldn't say anger, but just we look at things and we just wonder about what's going through somebody's mind when they say certain things. But he had mentioned how things are changing and how things are more peaceable now. And I countered that idea. I'm reading from an article, but it says on September 28th, Colbert County Sheriff's deputies responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle at an abandoned house close to the Mississippi-Alabama border, and they found Mr. Richardson hanging from a beam in the carport. So this is speaking about Denoris Richardson, a brother that was found hung in an abandoned house there in Alabama, which we know the history that state has. So it's hard for us to imagine being at peace when brothers are still perishing this way. To my Gentile audience that might hear this at some point, to the Gentiles who know me, I try to live peaceably, but truthfully, there is that's not a reality. That's not a truth. That's not a truth that's occurring. Me and my brother bring out these videos to highlight how things haven't really changed.
Exactly.
It's our job to be watchmen on this and to speak forth, because a lot of times these issues go under the radar.
Yeah.
So we'll be that trumpet that will highlight the atrocities that our people still face in this wicked ass captivity. I digress.
Exactly. That's exactly why we do this, why we bring these things out, because we want our people to know, these things are real. And, don't find yourself in a place and you don't know where you at. And all of a sudden you look up and you in the wrong place and you got torches and men with nooses in their hand coming at you. And you don't know what's going on. But
and people might hear that in 2024 and be like, oh, that's crazy talk. No. I just read to you of a situation that occurred less than 2 months ago.
Exactly.
Of a brother being found hung. So these are things, and we're foolish to believe that these things can't happen and that they won't happen. To be honest with you, these are things that are going to pick up, especially with the way the politics are in the country right now.
Exactly.
The banner has been raised for a lot of races to come forth. So, unfortunately, I feel like we'll probably be doing more videos like this.
Yeah, unfortunately, is exactly right. I will tell you this. I will tell anybody this. Canic, which is a weapons company, they make a lovely 20-round magazine, 9mm. That's 20 in the mag, and you can carry 3 or 4 mags and have 60 to 80 rounds with you and ready for protection. So keep that in mind. You got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for anything, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so the only way to resolve that is preparation. We're gonna go to the last video here. Again, shout out to Black Journals for not letting us down. Good video, good informative video. Something to be mindful of and something to make adjustments on. This video is a YouTube that we have not viewed before, And you know what? I'm looking at his stuff. I'm like, I hope this dude is not. I hope you don't have a copyright thing on here. I didn't even check that out. Hold on a second. Let me go to his channel and see. Got a copyright thing on here because I don't want to get in any trouble. But he's done some various here. I'll share this too. He's done some other videos. Countries. He said countries sending the most illegal immigrants to the U.S. U.S. States. This is the one we're going to review now. U.S. states that hate black people. Countries Muslims should avoid. And I think this is a Gentile fella, I believe. But he's found his niche in some of these kind of different style of videos, and I'm interested in what his content is, because when you think about states where black people should are most challenging, the places where you're most likely to get locked up, the places where the police will be on your behind and you don't even know what's going on. It's just all of a sudden it's there. So yeah, so we're gonna start right here. All right. I didn't see anything for copyright, so fair use on this video. My bad. I hit the wrong button. All right, here we go.
Than their white counterparts, or that in some states, people are not welcomed, a must-watch for black travelers, and it went viral. A surprising number of viewers asked, why didn't you include the United States? That got me thinking, are there states within the US where black people genuinely don't feel welcome? Sadly, the answer is yes. And that's what we're exploring today in this video titled, The States Where Black People Face the Most Challenges, with a focus on income, housing, and social disparities. Did you know that in certain parts of the US, black Americans are over 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than their white counterparts? Or that in some states, the income gap between black and white households is so large that it would take decades to catch up even under ideal conditions? These aren't just numbers, they're lived experiences affecting where people feel safe, accepted, and free to pursue their dreams. This clear that these disparities aren't inevitable. They're systemic issues that need serious attention. So grab a seat and stick around as we unpack the places where racial inequality runs highest. And hey, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's next on Virtual Travel by Brian. Number 10, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's cities, particularly Pittsburgh, showcase some of the most notable racial disparities impacting black communities.
Pittsburgh?
With a population of over 13 million, Pennsylvania has a black population of approximately 12%, yet their experiences in employment, income, and health reveal significant inequalities. According to Bloomberg, Pittsburgh, while rich in industry and culture, ranks poorly in income equality for black residents. The median income for black households lags substantially behind that of white households. Black families in Pittsburgh make, on average, $28,000 annually, compared to $53,000 for white households. That's a staggering gap in one of the state's most prominent cities. With such economic disparity, it's no wonder the state finds itself on this list. Employment outcomes for black residents also reflect this inequality. The unemployment rate for black Pennsylvanians is over twice that of white residents, and black professionals are often underrepresented in high-paying industries like tech and finance. What does this mean for upward mobility and long-term economic stability? Health outcomes are equally concerning. Studies show that black residents in Pennsylvania have higher rates of chronic diseases, such as diabetes and hypertension, and receive less access to quality health care. Some communities have life expectancies that are nearly 10 years shorter than those in predominantly white areas. So if you're considering the states where black people face the most challenges, Pennsylvania's data speaks volumes. How is it possible in 2024 for such glaring disparities to persist? This isn't just about numbers, it's about real lives impacted by systemic inequality. Stay tuned as we reveal the states where these issues are most prevalent, because understanding where these challenges lie is the first step toward change. Number 9, Kansas. Kansas, often celebrated for its open plains and quiet towns, reveals a less idyllic reality when we look at racial disparities in homeownership and income. With a population of about 3 million, Kansas has a Black population of roughly 6%, but the economic landscape for Black residents is far from equal. According to 24/7 Wall Stay, the Black homeownership rate in Kansas lags significantly behind that of white residents, creating barriers to financial stability and generational wealth. While homeownership is one of the most crucial ways to build wealth in America, Black residents in Kansas face striking obstacles. Only about 32% of Black households in Kansas own their homes, compared to around 72% of white households. That's less than half, reflecting a sizable gap in housing opportunities that affects stability and security for Black families across the state. The income disparity is equally concerning. The median household income for Black residents in Kansas stands at approximately $35,000 annually, while white households earn a median of around $60,000. This income gap not only impacts daily living standards, but also limits access to better schools, healthcare, and investment opportunities for Black Kansans. It makes you wonder, how are communities supposed to thrive when such large financial gaps persist? In the states where Black people face the most challenges, Kansas certainly earns its place due to these inequities in housing and income. Why is it that a state with so much potential is still grappling with these disparities? It's more than a question of numbers. It's a reality check on the barriers that prevent Kansas from being an equal playing field for everyone. Stay tuned to see how other states compare. Number 8, Michigan. Michigan, with a population of roughly 10 million, has long grappled with racial disparities that continue to impact its Black residents, who make about 14% of the population. Despite Michigan's rich history and cultural landmarks, certain economic and social realities paint a very different picture for Black communities across the state. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Michigan's median household income for Black residents stands around $35,000, while white households earn a significantly higher median income of approximately $63,000. That's nearly double, a gap that ripples through aspects of life like housing, education, and healthcare. When it comes to homeownership, only about 40% of Black Michiganders own their homes, compared to nearly 76% of white residents, illustrating a stark disparity in housing stability and wealth-building opportunities. Unemployment rates also tell a story. Black residents in Michigan face an unemployment rate of around 10%, more than twice the rate for white residents. This disparity in employment opportunities contributes to a poverty rate of roughly 30% for Black Michiganders, significantly higher than the 10% poverty rate among white residents, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The challenges don't stop there. High incarceration rates further complicate the social fabric for Black communities in Michigan, creating a cycle that makes economic advancement and stability all the more difficult. Cities like Detroit, once the beating heart of America's automotive industry, have struggled with economic decline that has disproportionately affected Black residents, leading to fewer job opportunities and greater economic hardship. So, if you're watching the states where Black people face the most challenges, Michigan's place on this list makes sense. How can one state hold so much promise, yet still wrestle with these inequalities? Number 7, Nebraska. Nebraska, known for its sprawling plains and warm Midwestern charm, has a population of about 2 million, with Black residents making up a small but significant 5% of the total. While the state has plenty of appeal, the reality for Black Nebraskans can be less inviting. Economic and housing disparities create obstacles that impact daily life, making Nebraska a relevant pick in the states where Black people face the most challenges. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black Nebraskans is around $38,000, while white households earn approximately $63,000. This considerable income gap influences everything from access to better neighborhoods and education to overall economic stability. And when it comes to homeownership, the divide is striking. Only about 32% of Black residents in Nebraska own their homes, compared to nearly 72% of white residents. The job market also tells a sobering story. Black residents in Nebraska face an unemployment rate of nearly 9%, which is more than double the rate for white residents. This disparity not only limits income potential, but contributes to a poverty rate for Black Nebraskans of around 25%, compared to just 8% for their white counterparts. How can a state known for its welcoming communities still be struggling with such severe inequalities? Additionally, high incarceration rates for Black residents compound these economic and social challenges, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. While Nebraska might seem like a peaceful place to call home, these systemic issues raise important questions about access, opportunity, and fairness for all residents. So if you're watching this video, stick around to learn more about other states where racial inequality has a major impact. The goal isn't just awareness, it's sparking change for a fairer future. Number 6, Missouri. Missouri, home to the iconic Gateway Arch and lively music scenes, is also a state where economic and social gaps have raised concerns for Black residents. With a population of around 6 million, Black Missourians represent approximately 12% of the state. Despite Missouri's charm, it's tough for Black communities to find equal footing in a place with a history of racial disparities. In this video, the states where Black people face the most challenges, Missouri's story unfolds through a look at income, housing, and employment inequalities. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in Missouri stands at about $36,000, significantly lower than the $60,000 median for white households. This income gap impacts everything from access to quality healthcare to educational opportunities and financial stability. Homeownership reveals a similar story. While about 70% of white Missourians own homes, only 37% of Black residents can say the same, illustrating a stark contrast in housing equity. Job security is another challenge. Black residents face an unemployment rate hovering around 9%, almost double that of their white counterparts. And poverty rates? Roughly 25% of Black Missourians live in poverty, compared to only 9% of white residents. How is it that a state with such potential can still be grappling with these stark disparities? St. Louis, in particular, has a history of racial tension that has left an indelible mark on the city's housing, employment, and educational opportunities for Black residents. Add to this a significant incarceration rate for Black Missourians, and it's clear why many Black Americans may find Missouri less than welcoming. Before we dive into the next state, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these disparities? Do you think enough is being done to address racial inequality in the U.S.? Drop a comment below and let's get a conversation going. And if you're finding this video insightful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more in-depth discussions like this. Number 5, Connecticut. Connecticut, known for its picturesque coastlines and prestigious universities, hides a reality of economic and social disparities that impact its Black residents. With a population of around 3.6 million, Connecticut's Black community makes up about 10% of the state. In this video, the states where Black people face the most challenges, we look at how racial inequality in income, homeownership, and employment affects daily life for Black residents in Connecticut. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in Connecticut is approximately $47,000, while white households bring in a median income of around $82,000. This stark income gap speaks to broader issues in access to well-paying jobs, and it doesn't stop there. Homeownership rates show an even wider divide. Only about 31% of Black residents own their homes, compared to nearly 75% of white residents. That's less than half, underscoring just how tough it is to achieve housing stability and generational wealth in this state. The unemployment rate for Black residents hovers around 10%, almost twice the rate for white residents, impacting economic stability across generations. As for poverty, around 20% of Connecticut's Black population lives below the poverty line, compared to just 6% of white residents. How can a state with some of the nation's wealthiest communities have such glaring economic divides? With Connecticut's sharp contrasts between affluent neighborhoods and those struggling with economic inequality, it's clear why this state is challenging for Black residents. So as we continue through the list, ask yourself, how can a state known for prosperity do better for everyone who calls it home? Stick with us to see how other states compare and why change is crucial. Number 4, South Dakota. South Dakota, known for Mount Rushmore and vast open prairies, has a population of about 900,000, with Black residents making up roughly 2% of that number. Although small, South Dakota's Black community faces economic disparities that make it one of the challenging states to live in for Black Americans. In the states where Black people face the most challenges, we examine how income, housing, and employment gaps impact the Black population in this state. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black residents in South Dakota is about $30,000, which pales in comparison to the $63,000 median income for white households. That's a significant income gap, affecting everything from access to better neighborhoods and schools to long-term financial stability. Homeownership is another hurdle, with only about 25% of Black residents owning their homes compared to nearly 70% of white residents. That's less than half, and it points to significant barriers in housing accessibility and wealth building. When it comes to employment, Black residents face an unemployment rate of approximately 12%, more than double that of their white counterparts. With limited job opportunities, it's no surprise that nearly 30% of South Dakota's Black population lives in poverty, while the poverty rate for white residents is around 10%. These statistics paint a picture of economic challenges that seem far removed from South Dakota's image of wide-open spaces and opportunity. How can a state with so much room for growth struggle to support economic equality? Stick with us as we explore more states on this list. This isn't just about numbers, it's about creating a fairer future for everyone. Number 3, Minnesota. Minnesota, often associated with its 10,000 lakes and vibrant Twin Cities, also holds some of the widest racial disparities in the U.S., affecting Black residents disproportionately. With a population of about 5.7 million, Minnesota's Black community represents approximately 7%, yet faces some of the most significant economic and social challenges. In the states where Black people face the most challenges, we explore how income, housing, and education inequalities impact Black Minnesotans. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income for Black families in Minnesota is around $38,000, while white households earn a median income of about $76,000, double the income. This income gap makes it difficult for Black residents to build financial security and invest in long-term assets like property. And when it comes to homeownership, Minnesota has one of the widest divides in the country, with only about 25% of Black residents owning homes, compared to nearly 75% of white residents. That's a threefold difference, highlighting barriers in housing equity and wealth building. Education is another area where gaps persist. Black Minnesotans are less likely to hold a college degree, with graduation rates significantly lagging behind those of their white counterparts. This limited access to higher education restricts economic mobility, narrowing career paths that can bridge the income gap. With these disparities in mind, you might wonder, how can a state with such progressive values still struggle so much with equality? Minnesota's mix of cultural richness and economic gaps makes it a place of both opportunity and limitation for Black residents. Number 2, Iowa. Iowa, known for its picturesque farmland and friendly communities, also holds a lesser-known distinction: some of the starkest racial disparities in America. Black residents, making up roughly 4% of Iowa's 3.2 million population, face a complex web of economic and social barriers, especially in places like Waterloo. In the states where Black people face the most challenges, we unpack Iowa's challenges, from homeownership hurdles to educational disparities. Let's start with homeownership. In Iowa, the homeownership rate for Black residents is around 23%, while white residents sit comfortably at nearly 74%. That's not just a gap, it's a canyon. This disparity means fewer black families can benefit from the financial stability and generational wealth that come with owning a home. Waterloo, a city with a large black population, faces particularly steep challenges. Income inequality is clear here, with the median household income for black residents at around $31,000 compared to nearly $60,000 for white households. That's almost half. Education isn't faring much better. High school graduation rates and college attainment lag, creating limited job opportunities and perpetuating the income gap. And then there's incarceration. The black incarceration rate in Iowa is over 7 times that of white residents. An alarming statistic for a state this size. With these figures, you have to ask, how can a place that prides itself on community leave so many behind? While Iowa might seem welcoming on the surface, these realities paint a different picture for its black residents. As we explore these issues, it's crucial to question how these systemic barriers came to be, and more importantly, what can be done to create a state where everyone has a fair shot. Keep watching as we reveal what other states make the list. Number 1, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, famous for cheese, lakes, and football, also ranks as the most challenging state for Black Americans, according to numerous studies. While it might seem surprising for a state with friendly small-town vibes, the reality for Wisconsin's Black residents, especially in cities like Milwaukee, tells a different story. In the states where Black people face the most challenges, we're diving into what makes Wisconsin particularly tough. Consider the income gap. Black households in Wisconsin bring in a median income of around $32,000, while white households enjoy nearly double that at approximately $63,000. This gap limits economic opportunities and leaves many Black families struggling to build financial security. Homeownership rates paint an equally harsh picture. Only about 25% of Black residents own their homes, compared to a solid 72% of white residents. It's as if the American dream is out of reach for many Black Wisconsinites, who face a maze of barriers to property ownership and wealth building. Then there's Milwaukee, where the Black incarceration rate is among the highest in the nation, with Black residents incarcerated at a rate nearly 12 times that of white residents. This isn't just a statistic, it's a symptom of long-standing issues, from housing segregation to unequal employment and educational opportunities. And, no surprise here, Milwaukee often lands on lists of the worst cities for Black Americans. So here's the question. How does a state known for friendly Midwestern values still face such severe racial inequalities? Wisconsin's disparities are hard to overlook, making it an essential entry in our list. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the states where Black people face the most challenges.
Wow, that was very interesting. And reason being is the statistics that he used, or the statistics that he highlighted, I should say, are definitely statistics that we need to be mindful of. Rates of incarceration, rates of employment, and rates of college graduates in comparison. When you have a disparity, such a large disparity, he was comparing percentages. This percentage of Blacks compared to this percentage of whites. So, and ideally, I mean, that levels it. It's not like, oh, it's more of them, so they're gonna have more of this. Like, not necessarily, because you're looking at the percentage. So overall here, this is the number that of these ones that we looked at, or these ones that we took account of. This is the percentage of them. And then you can take a similar number on the other side and compare those two. And man, that was interesting stuff.
Indeed. I was surprised by a few of those states, namely Pennsylvania. I thought that was a good state for a brother to be at. I thought that whole DMV area and including Pennsylvania was like an ideal location, but it's just like other areas. And when we were covering all of this, I couldn't help but to think about Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. And it reads, "Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired." So, we're bringing forth this information. I want to be where our people are thriving and doing well. So, our point in bringing this video forth is to highlight places where things are not going so well for our people. I think anywhere where we're at, there's going to be disparities with lockup, with the prison and penal system. But areas where where we're thriving, not just economically, but where we have our own communities, and our own businesses. A few of our people had the right idea back in 2020 when I think it might have been maybe 17 different Black folks that put their money together and purchased some land down in Georgia. I'd like to follow up with that just to see how things are going for them. But things like that are the right idea. Being somewhere where you're represented in the law enforcement, in government, in the school systems, in the hospitals. This is where we want to be, and this is how it will be. When the kingdom is restored, or when the kingdom comes.
Yeah, indeed, and that's what we anxiously anticipate, because that's what we desperately need is that restoration, is that coming of the kingdom, restore the kingdom back to Israel. But yeah, that was a pretty good video, pretty good information, and it even gives us a place to kind of go into and research, to figure out, kind of follow up on his statistical data and see what's what. Now, I will say this: that's one thing else we need to look up or look into. Where the most, so-called Black entrepreneurs, like where can we find the cities, the states that produce the most or that have the most so-called Black entrepreneurs, and how can that be? Or where are those at? What are the best of those? So I think that's something that we definitely need to get into, and help us to support.
Indeed. And if we're not living in these locations, at the least, we can have a relationship with these individuals and support our people's businesses.
Exactly. And what's crazy though? On that last video, it really had me scratching my head. He said not only Pennsylvania, but he said Pittsburgh,
right,
was basically no bueno for the so-called Black man. So I thought, wow, I did not expect that whatsoever.
No,
I was expecting. It would almost seem like it would be Philadelphia as opposed to Pittsburgh, but interesting stuff. So, all right. We've been on here for a good little while, so we'll go ahead and cut this on off. And join us tomorrow. We're going to get into, most high willing, we'll get into the scriptures. And we may do another video review. We did 3 tonight, so I think that may be sufficient. But who knows? When something may come up that we get into, we may look at some news stories. We may do anything. It's the Sabbath. Looking forward to the rest, and looking forward to the fellowship. So keep that in mind. Anything else before we close it out?
No, all praises to the Most High for all that He's done, all that He's doing, and all that He will do. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. We're going to go ahead and close it on out with the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter number 12 and verse number 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is so very important that we understand that In the conclusion of the whole matter, we are to fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, when it is all said and done, all the dust is settled, all the smoke is cleared, in the conclusion of it all, we will be judged on whether we have feared the Most High and kept his commandments. Why? Because this is the entire reason that we are here. I am Akazaki Yahu, joined by my most esteemed Akenaniah, giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahuwah, Ba'Hashem, Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the 12 tribes of Israel, who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say Shalom, Wa, Baruchim, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day that the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High Power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. Until that day come, shalom, family.
Shalom, Mr. Paka.
Hallelujah. Shalom, Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah. Change it up every now